What is going on? We are back predicting the entire 2023 season. This time we are doing the Cincinnati Bengals. As we did the Ravens a couple days ago, and they went 11-6. This time we're going to be talking about the Bengals. Obviously, both Ravens games will still have their win-loss. As you can already see, there's an L or a W on those days. So let's get right into this. Let's talk about Week 1 against Cleveland. I believe they handle business here in Cleveland. I'm not very big on Cleveland this year. I think they are not very good. I'm not buying into Deshaun Watson or anything else Cleveland does. I stated this in the Ravens video. I'm not going to go too deep into it. If you really care to hear my full opinion on Cleveland Browns, go check out that one. You'll see it in probably a day or so when I do them as well. Obviously, if they lose week 2 towards Baltimore, Baltimore always plays better at the beginning of the year. That's kind of where I saw that. But they bounce back in week 3, and they will beat the Rams. They pretty much handle business against the Rams. I mean, you would hope that this little stretch here of games that are very winnable for them, that they don't choke a few of these. I think the Rams are one of those, pretty easy dub. Same thing with the Titans. I think, they have no real sense of direction with their franchise. They're probably going to be playing Tannehill, even though they should give one of the young guys a start. By week 4, one of the young guys might be in if Tannehill struggles a lot for the first 3 weeks. But I still don't see them being much of a threat. I think they're kind of in a rebuild, needing to retool that entire team. So I think the Titans are going to be pretty bad this year. And I think the Bengals are one of the premium teams in the AFC and will handle business pretty easily. Against the Cardinals, they'll also collect another win. Kyler Murray might not even be playing by that point. And if he is, he's literally all they got at this point. And I honestly just don't think he's good enough to beat the Bengals by himself or really carry the Cardinals much out of this terrible position that they find themselves in right now. Next up, we also have Seattle. Seattle, I think, will actually lose this game. I think the Bengals will beat Seattle here. Seattle's a pretty good team. I like their coach, Pete Carroll. Obviously, has coached them really, really well. I mean, he got them to the playoffs last year with Geno Smith at quarterback. I'm not entirely sure if Geno's going to be the same guy he was last year, but you never know. But I'm just not betting against the Bengals in that situation, which they are off to a fantastic start at 5-1 going into the bye. But that's when they hit a little rough patch. They'll lose to the Niners. The Niners are one of the best teams in football. I don't see them winning this game unless the Niners don't have a quarterback. I mean, it's a possibility given what's happened in the past. But, yeah, I think, honestly, the Bengals will lose that one. And then the very next one against the Bills, they'll lose to the Bills as well in Week 9, which they'll fall to 5-3, which is not awful right now, especially since in Week 10 they'll bounce back and beat the Houston Texans. I think the Texans are still rebuilding. C.J. Stroud might get that team a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think they're still going to be one of the worst teams in football next year. They play in an easy division, so who knows? They could pull off some decent wins there, but I don't think they're beating the Bengals. We already know I have them winning against the Ravens in Week 11 just based on the fact that they usually split with the Ravens, and the Ravens are better at the early part of the season. Yeah, so that's kind of where my thought process is with that game. You want to hear my full definition again, go check out the Raven video. Pittsburgh, I believe they'll win that game as well. They've been on fire so far this year. The Bengals look like one of the best teams in football. Starting out 8-3. Sorry, I had to count. 8-3 here at the start of the season, which is absolutely fantastic. But they might hit a rough patch coming up here soon, as I think they lose to Jacksonville, to be honest with you. I think Jacksonville is a much better team than people are giving them. I think Jacksonville can shock the world and pull off some W's here. And honestly, a lot of people are kind of just, whatever, because their division's bad, so no one really expects Jacksonville to do anything too crazy, probably just make the playoffs. But I actually think Jacksonville can make a shocking presence, and I think beating the Bengals is a big move for Jacksonville. But they'll bounce back and beat the Colts in Week 14. Anthony Richards, again, kind of like C.J. Stroud and, Will Levis, all these young guys that the Bengals actually might end up playing. I don't think he's going to be this crazy great impact here in the first year. But I think maybe in a couple of years he could be something. I don't think it matters in Week 14. Week 15, I think the Vikings beat them. I don't think this is a primetime game. Kirk Cousins, Vikings, I feel like they could pull off the upset and beat the Bengals. I just honestly think it's a good possibility. I mean, it might not happen, but I think it's a good possibility given I think they're going to beat the Steelers. I think they're going to sweep that. I think giving them a loss to either the Steelers or the Vikings would be, generally okay, because I think they could lose either one or both or anyway. They split against all division opponents last year, so I can see it going either way. In Week 17, though, they'll lose to the Chiefs. They'll lose to the Chiefs. I just don't think they're better than the Chiefs. The Bengals do get really good at the end of the season, and I know I have them losing like every other week right now at the end of the season, but I'm not betting against the Chiefs unless they're not playing for anything in Week 17, which is unlikely, but it's a possibility. I don't see them losing to the Bengals, but the Bengals will have to play their starters and will win in Week 18 against the Browns, as they will finish with the same record as the Ravens at 11-6. Honestly, I think the Ravens hold the tiebreaker, if I remember right, when I threw it into the season prediction thing, but both teams had a great year. I think the Bengals could pull off a couple more wins, probably finish like 12-5, maybe 13-4, depending on like Jacksonville and the Vikings and stuff. Sometimes you got to give those weird losses in there, and that's kind of what I did here. Also, as a Ravens fan, it's hard to predict giving the Bengals a bunch of wins. But if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one.